You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms, and remember what got you here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the f***ing difference between winning and losing.
It's down to the wire with Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
Oh, Petey! Oh, Petey!
On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks, and my co-host and producer, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can reach us and follow us and call us at 631-965-4990. And remember, you can follow us on our website by going to our website at www.sportsonthego1.com. And you could also go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. You can follow us on all our social medias by going to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, radio.com, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and all the radio platforms on the internet and the digital market by going to us and following us by going to worldwidesportsradio.com. Mr. Speedy Petey, how was your weekend, my friend?
It was interesting. I hung out with my cousins. I played a lot of older video games, a lot of arcade games that you might have played as a kid.
Oh, you're saying I'm old. Is that what you're saying?
Well, somewhat, but...
Well, so you're saying I'm an old man. That's what you're telling me on this radio show, that I am an old man, and I'm a geezer. I'm 38 years old.
You admit you're old, too. So.
Well, I feel old. I wouldn't say I'm old, but I feel old.
You've said it before, but I played a lot of those games. It was actually funny last night.
Like what game? Mario Kart?
No. Contra was one of the big ones.
Oh, I love Contra.
Yeah. Me and my youngest cousin played that for a long time. We were trying to beat that.
It gets addictive.
Yeah, it does. It does. I wasn't very good at it, but
Well, you don't look like the type of person
it was the first time I played it, I would say probably since like I was 10 or something.
What, playing video games?
No, playing that specific game.
Oh, so you haven't played Contra since you were 10 years old?
Yeah, because for me growing up, it's only available in an arcade, so...
Well, they had video games. They still have these like little Nintendo things.
They did. That's what he. That's
or
what
Genesis.
He has.
Now it was on Genesis.
Well, yeah. Well, they had a NES system which had 620 different games. So that was one of them.
Oh, I love those things.
Yeah. So I was playing that for a while. Then yesterday was funny. We were playing this game while we were eating dinner. Name 3 things of a specific category in 5 seconds. It led to a lot of heated debates too. So basically you have 5 seconds. Like if I said name 3 NFL teams, you have to say it in 5 seconds.
Well, that's not too hard.
Right. But it's all different categories, but there were some discussions that got heated on that too.
Well, you get me heated on this show.
It was crazy.
So
yeah.
It would be great if we actually did something like that on this show. Maybe we'll figure out a game where we can play with the fans, where the fans could get involved with us and maybe argue points, just like we do with Debate Hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you could see, Speedy had a great weekend. I did not have a great weekend. It was a lot of work, a lot of stress, as you guys know. And here on Long Island, it was like, it makes me flustered because one day it's nice, the other day it's cold. The other day it's warm, the next day is cool. The weather can never stay the same in springtime here in Long Island, New York. March is a terrible time because you have rain, you can have snow, you can have it cold, or today you can have it at 70, almost 70 degrees today. It's unbelievable, the weather here, and this is why the flu goes around, aka you know what virus. So this has been a problem for not only here in the States, but all over the world. And that is why I think slowly but surely you're seeing the transition of different sicknesses and flus and all the different things that are coming out throughout the country and throughout the world. But we're not getting into that today because we're a sports radio network, and I want to get into this whole Aaron Judge situation with the New York Yankees. And I know a lot of people will come out and say, well, you have to blame the trainers. You have to blame the doctors of the New York Yankees organization because they're the Yankees and they have the best doctors, the best trainers in the world. But in the last couple of years, especially the last 2 years, going into this year, last year the Yankees had 33 or 32 big-time injuries that hurt the Yankees throughout the season. Now, did it show? No, the Yankees won 103 games in the regular season last year, and they went on to the American League Championship. And they lost against Houston in, what was it, 5 games? 6 games?
But obviously we know why.
Absolutely. But when you look at this particular injury, this is an injury that you have to shake your head. Because Aaron Judge has had this injury for almost 4 months. And I'm not talking about 4 months going into this year. 4 months last year in the regular season when he dove for a ball and he hurt his ribs. And the Yankees, how many different CAT scans or MRIs or X-rays that they gave Aaron Judge in the last couple of months, and it just didn't work out for the New York Yankees. Now it comes out, and I know a lot of people are going to go over this, and they're going to talk about this, and they're going to say, well, you have to look at the Yankees organization. They got to fire this guy. They got to fire this guy because they need to fix this problem. Now, this is a problem that might not be able to be fixed, and I understand they fired trainers in the last couple of weeks, and they fired a bunch of doctors. But this has been going on for years, and the Yankees were not the team to be laughed at over the years. It was the Mets.
They're still laughed at.
But the Mets organization, for year in and year out, and with all the injuries they've had with, you talk about Wheeler, you talk about Matz, you talk about Syndergaard, you even talk about the Grim Reaper, and I call him the Grim Reaper because he's no longer with the New York Mets, and he had his rib taken out, just like they're talking about possibly Aaron Judge getting one of his ribs taken out. And you know who I'm talking about, the Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Yankees organization as a whole, and this is an organization that's nothing, they've done nothing but win. This is what they do, they win. But I don't even know if this Yankee team this year can withstand the injuries that they maintained last year in the regular season.
Yeah, it's quite an anomaly what happened to them, having that many overperformers all at once with all those injuries. It will be tough. That being said, though, the division as a whole is worse as well, so it might be easier still just to win games and maybe still make it anyway, because the Yankees still have a ton of
Speedy,
depth and
you
talent.
spent $325 million on a pitcher that's only going to pitch every fifth day. You have to do more than just slip right into the playoffs because the division is bad. This is a team that's expected to win. This is a team that's supposed to should expect home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying that if they have this injury bug kind of thing with multiple guys out at once, they already have that with Judge. They already have that with their pitching staff. So if it accumulates to where it was last year, I'm just saying it will be easier just because the Red Sox won't be as good. Tampa is what they always are, and the other two are just bad.
And again, you cannot tell me, because the Yankees are the best team in the division because they have the most talent, that you expect them, even with the injuries that they have, to squeeze right in and say, you know what, we have the best team, we're the better team. We'll squeeze right into the playoffs right now because we're going to win the division. We're better than the Red Sox. We're better than the Blue Jays. We're better than the Baltimore Orioles. And we're also probably better than the Tampa Bay Rays. So you know what? Even with the injuries that we have, we lose Aaron Judge for the next 4 months because he's going to have rib surgery. Well, we're still going to win. We're still going to sneak into the playoffs, and we still have a chance to win a championship. To me, as a Yankee fan, I would not be happy. This is a team that is expected to win every single year.
The division in those circumstances?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right now, when you look at the New York Yankees as a whole, and with the injuries that they have to James Paxton, you don't know what you're going to get out of Masahiro Tanaka because he still has that UCL tear in his elbow. You're talking about Garrett Cole, who did not pitch well in his last 2 spring training games. And I know it's spring training, but it's spring training. It shows a lot what a pitcher is when you have cameras, and shows you a lot what a pitcher doesn't have cameras helping him out. Now, I'm not saying Garrett Cole is not going to pitch well for the New York Yankees because there's no cameras, there's no cheating anymore. I don't believe that. I think Garrett Cole is a good pitcher. But when you lose significant pitchers early in the season, you lose Luis Severino for the whole season now because he's going to have Tommy John surgery. I think he just had Tommy John surgery. You have a pitcher right now because of domestic violence that you're not going to see in 60 games. And then you talk about James Paxton. Now you have Montgomery coming back. Garcia has not looked good in spring training so far. Who are the Yankees looking forward to in the beginning of the season? You have Garrett Cole as your number 1. You have Tanaka as your 2. Who do you have as your 3? J.A. Happ? Montgomery, who hasn't pitched in almost 2 years?
Yeah, I doubt they'd rush him to a 3.
Garcia? A young pitcher who's only 20 years old?
Good luck with that.
I mean, where are the Yankees going as far as their pitching staff is concerned? If J.A. Happ doesn't have a better season than he had last year, the Yankees are in trouble.
Well, he's always boom or bust, so you don't know what to expect with him. The contract still looks bad, but, I mean, he could boom like he did in the trade deadline at the end of the 2018 season, maybe 2015 when he first came over to the Toronto Blue Jays. So you just got to hope that ends up happening because, again, stuff-wise, he's not a great pitcher. Stats-wise, he's normally not a great pitcher, but he has had weird good years.
I look at the Yankees and even Aaron Judge. Go look at the numbers from 2018, 2019. We're not going to talk about his 2017 season, his rookie season. Well, it wasn't his rookie season, but it was his full rookie season where he hit 52 home runs and 114 RBIs and should have won the MVP. 2018, he played 112 games. He had 27 home runs and 67 RBIs. This is one of the best players in the league right now. 2019, last year, played 102 games, had exactly 27 home runs and 55 RBIs. This is also a player that's going to be a free agent in about a year and a half, where he's going to expect money like a Christian Yelich, who got $215 million over the weekend from the Milwaukee Brewers. Aaron Judge is expecting big money. Because this might be his only big contract, not only with the Yankees, but maybe in his career, because he'll be 30 next year.
Right, and the way GMs are flowing, they don't value as much when it comes to older players that have had previous success anymore. It's now, if you're young, we'll pay you. If not, we're going to gamble on you, and that could lead to a bunch of 2-year deals. That could lead to a bunch of discounted contracts, where Judge might not have that if they have all the injury issues, if he gets to age 31, age 32, still having this pace.
Well, it bothers me when you look at the Yankees, and I'm a Yankee fan. Everybody that knows me and knows what I talk about, and I'm a realist Yankee fan. And as a realist, and I look at the Yankees right now with the injuries that they have to go into the season with, this is not a good sign for the New York Yankees early in the season. When you're going to depend, again, on young players or players that were second-tier players or third-tier players in your farm system to come up and play. Now, I'm not saying Clint Frazier is a second or third-tier player. I think he's a first-tier player who could be a great starting right fielder or left fielder for the New York Yankees in the future.
But another guy that had trouble staying healthy. So.
And another guy that can't catch the ball in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add Andahar, who has another great bat, what you're going to put back into that lineup after missing him for a whole year last year because of the shoulder injury. This is a guy that's never played left field in his career. This guy was a third baseman his whole career, even when he was playing in the Dominican Republic. You look at the Yankees right now, there is no sure thing besides Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu. And I don't want to hear about Gary Sanchez because as good as Gary Sanchez has been as a catcher, and I don't want to hear about the Yankee fans saying that he is not a good catcher in this league. It's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard a Yankee fan even say. This guy is one of the top 3 catchers in baseball. You can't count on Gary Sanchez all year round to take up the missing piece of Aaron Judge's power in the lineup. And you don't even know what Giancarlo Stanton is going to be this year because he's already starting the season on the IL. You don't have your starting outfield for almost till 4th of July. Giancarlo Stanton's going to miss about 2 or 3 weeks in the beginning of the season. Aaron Hicks is not going to be back until the end of 4th of July, maybe All-Star Weekend. Aaron Judge, we don't even know when he's going to come back or if he's going to have surgery. That's something as a Yankee fan, and all you Yankee fans, that's what you should be worrying about. But more than anything, you're going to be able to bring players up from the farm system that's going to give you power, and it's going to give you the batting that you need to move forward. What about their pitching? The Yankees spent a ton of money in the offseason this year for Garrett Cole, expecting this to be the year where they're going to make a run for a World Series.
Right. They got Garrett Cole for the postseason, though, not for the regular season.
It doesn't matter. What did Garrett Cole do in the postseason last year in the
down,
World Series?
Up and down.
Okay, so you can't bet on Garrett Cole. If you're going to do that, you should have went after Steven Strasburg. He has he has better numbers in the playoffs than Garrett Cole. You are expecting Garrett Cole to have a Cy Young season again this year. You expect him to win 17, 18 games as an ace. You're paying him that. You're expecting him to have over 300 strikeouts, and you're expecting him to be the anchor of your pitching staff. But what is your pitching staff right now? Who do you depend on in this pitching staff besides Garrett Cole and Masahiro Tanaka? There is none. And the same thing happened to the Yankees last year. And everybody says, well, we need an ace. We need an ace. The Yankees bring in an ace, and then they have these problems. You don't have James Paxton for 3 months. You don't have this guy for 3 months or 4 months or for the season. This has been a problem. And everybody, and including, I talk about Tyler Harrison, you talk about Matty Capps, who can't stand Aaron Boone. And that's fine. You can't stand him. Tell me a manager right now in baseball that could deal with the problems Aaron Boone has dealt with in the last 2 seasons and still win 100 games. The answer is no one. And if Aaron Judge doesn't come back this year, that's going to put the Yankees in a big hole. Because then you're going to have to depend on Giancarlo Stanton to stay healthy for at least 125 games.
He's not going to be able to DH every game like the Yankees were able to have him do last year in the second half of the season when all the outfielders were healthy. So they're going to have him play the outfield a lot more, especially if Andujar has trouble in left field. They're going to have to DH him a lot more often, and then they're going to have to DH Sanchez at times. So that'll make it harder on him in terms of the leg injuries he's had in the past, too.
And you also have to look at the other big picture, is when you look at the Yankees training staff now, which everybody, I guess, was fired in the last couple of weeks, or most of them were fired in the last couple of weeks. You're going to bring in a bunch of trainers that, again, doesn't have the experience with these players, maybe from other teams and other organizations, but don't have the experience with these players. And how long is it going to take these trainers to build a rapport with these players where they feel these players trust these trainers to expect them to get back on the field and be healthy? These are things that, as a Yankee fan, or even anybody that isn't a Yankee fan, that likes the Yankees in the playoffs or wants to see the Yankees in the World Series, you have to worry about. Because this team right now, on paper, with the injuries they have, as good as they are on paper, that doesn't mean a damn thing. And it worries me as a fan, or really analyzing the Yankees for the whole season, which I will be doing. Trust me, I will. And I'm not going to talk bad about somebody that I think has been a good manager for the New York Yankees. And that's Aaron Boone. If Aaron Boone has another 100-win season with all the injuries starting the season that they have right now, if he doesn't win the Manager of the Year this year, there's a problem with the major leagues.
Now, you also said last week if they don't go to the World Series this year, you think he should be fired at the end of the year, too.
Absolutely. But again, I didn't expect James Paxton to be out 3 or 4 months. I didn't expect Tanaka. I expect Tanaka to stay healthy. I expected Severino to play all season long. He's out for the season. And that big contract that they gave Severino, the Yankees knew Severino was hurt. That's why they got a discount.
Right.
Think about it this way. Shoulder injury. He signed a 4-year deal with the New York Yankees. He missed practically a whole season last year. That's 1 year. He's going to miss the whole season this year. That's 2 years. He's not going to come back until the middle of next season. So what does he have? 1.5 years left of his contract? And then he becomes a free agent again. So the Yankees lost him for 2 years, and they're paying the kid that kind of money, $12 million a year, for sitting on the bench. So the Yankees really got robbed out of that contract as well. Now, you could say whatever you want, and you want to say that Brian Cashman's a terrible GM, which is ridiculous as well.
That's far from the truth. That you want to talk about a guy that deserves a lot of credit for last year, that would be him finding the gems that he did that overperformed for them throughout the season. That kind of thing doesn't happen overnight.
And you're expecting DJ LeMay to have another season that he had last year in the Bronx. And I don't know if he can do that again.
No, you have to expect some regression, but he still is a top second baseman one of the best in the league. And again, a lot of people just didn't know it, how good he was. And now if he plays more second base full time, he's a very good glove defensively too, which helps a lot as well, especially if these pitchers are third, fourth, fifth tier pitchers that are coming off the injury, that are replacing these injured guys. They're going to have to rely a lot more on position player defense too.
I will leave you with this, Yankee fans. If any of you Yankee fans believe that they're going to go into the season with these significant injuries and they're just going to fly by because the American League East is bad, you have another thing coming. Because as bad as the American League East looks, there could be a surprise team, and that team is the Blue Jays. And with that lineup, yes, they don't have the pitching, and they went after some pitchers in the offseason this year, but this team could surprise a lot of people. They have the lineup. They have the power in the lineup to contain and compete with the team like the Yankees. They did it last year. They're the only team that came close to a winning season with the Yankees in the American League East out of all the teams. That's saying a lot. They play well against the Yankees. And if the Yankees are the best team in the American League East, you know teams are going to be gunning for them. Especially with that Garrett Cole contract that they gave him $325 million. And Garrett Cole better put up or shut up, because this guy sat around expecting the Yankees to open up their wallet when he was drafted in 2008 by the Yankees and he decided to go back to college. So he better pan out and show up to games in Yankee Stadium. 631-965-4990. We are going to have a special guest at 7 o'clock. Rick Curti, the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to the Charlotte City. So we're going to have him on the phone. We're going to talk about Charlotte baseball and why he thinks the Charlotte City can bring in a major league team. We'll get into that when we come back. Is Pop going somewhere else? And I'm talking about Greg Popovich. Is he heading to another NBA team? We'll get into that a little bit later. And Hawks CEO Steve Cunnin is starting to bring in some thoughts on what the NBA should do and how they should transition the season to the playoffs. When we come back, we'll get into that here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Down to the Wire. Remember, you can call us at 631-965-4990. I almost forgot my own number.
Yeah.
And remember, you can follow us by going to our website at worldwidesportsradio.com. And you can search us on every single platform, on every single, digital platform. You can follow us on radio.com. TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter. We're on every single avenue when it comes to social media, as far as I'm concerned. But interesting things happened this weekend, Speedy. And I'll tell you this. I was very surprised the Brooklyn Nets fired their coach.
Yeah.
Nobody would have thought that the Brooklyn Nets were going to fire Kenny Atkins. Nobody. And the story came out that Sean Marks had Atkins come in and speak to the high-ups, the organization owners and the people that have money invested into the organization, and they wanted to know his thoughts on where this team is heading. And after the meeting, Kenny Atkins was no longer the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Kevin Durant came out over the weekend and said that this team is, what he thought this team was on its way of being is completely fallen off. That this team does not know where it's going. When you fire a head coach in the middle of the season when you're a playoff team and expect these players like Kyrie Irving and guys like Kevin Durant to expect that this team absolutely knows where they're heading as a team, as an organization, when they were expected to be a championship competitive team next year, especially the way LeVert is playing.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I think this kind of thing, if it happened would have happened in the offseason if it was going to happen, because the Nets, even though they've been a little down from where they were last year, they've still been a playoff competitive team. They're still, I think, at 500 right now or slightly below, but they were right around where they were last year. And again, a lot of times when you see coaches fired in the NBA now, it's because of the superstar players. It's a player-run league now. If you don't get along with this superstar player, you're not going to keep your job very much longer. So that kind of thing could have happened with Kyrie Irving, with Kevin Durant, if it happened. But because of them not playing for pretty much all year and him still having the team young, I'm surprised they would have committed to getting rid of him that quickly. So it seemed kind of bizarre in that case. And I think Kenny Atkinson will get a job very quickly once the offseason begins, because he has been a good coach for a while, and he's good with young players and good with a lot of unknown players too.
Well, think about it this way. There is a team across the river that's going to be looking for a head coach at the end of the season's end. And we were talking about Thibodeau and Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, and now you have another New York representative that is now available who worked as an assistant coach with the New York Knicks organization for many, many years in Kenny Atkinson. Now, Kenny Atkinson is a very high-profile coach now. And there are not just the New York Knicks are going to be looking at him. There are plenty of teams that'll be looking at Kenny Atkins that are going to be looking for a coach in the offseason. And right now, the Nets are 29-34.
Oh, wow, they're actually worse than I thought. Okay.
They're right now the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference.
Which doesn't say much.
And they don't have Kyrie Irving practically for the rest of the season, and they're not going to see Kevin Durant until next year. Now, you would think after this offseason bringing in Kevin Durant and Jordan that they would give Atkinson a little bit more time with Kevin Durant and with Jordan to see what team they have enforced. But obviously, everybody that thought Sean Marks knew what he was doing, unless he has something planned that he's going to bring Greg Popovich, and that's what we're going to get into right now. Mm-hmm. If he actually thinks that Greg Popovich is going to flee the San Antonio Spurs to come and work for him, then I understand why they got rid of Kenny Atkinson. But even bringing in Greg Popovich is on the end of his career.
The contract wouldn't be very long.
This guy is in his 70s now. How many years does this guy have left? 2, 3 years?
Yeah.
You saw what he did with this team, the Spurs team. The Spurs team is not even a playoff team. And I told you guys this over and over again. The coach is as good as the players he's coaching. Tim Duncan retires. This team has not been the same team since he's retired. I don't care what anybody says.
They had a star player that decided to sit out the whole year.
Even with Kawhi Leonard, they weren't winning anything. No. Even with Kawhi, they weren't winning anything.
No, but they were
and
still,
it shows you
they
how
were still
important,
a top 5 seed.
It shows you how important Tim Duncan was to that organization and Greg Popovich's career. Now, I'm not saying Greg Popovich and Pop, or whatever you want to call him, Pop is not a good coach. But he has not won without his star player. And that's saying a lot. If you're going to say you're a great coach, Pat Riley was a great coach. Because Pat Riley took over the Miami Heat when he needed to, when Shaq came to the team, to help them win a championship. He made sure that he was going to help them win a championship, even if he wasn't the GM and he had to take over the coaching job. And he did. And they won. And you can say what you want about Phil Jackson. Everywhere Phil Jackson went, no matter who he was coaching, he won. Everywhere he went. Yes, he was coaching Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, and then went to Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and all the other muskrats that they had on that team. You could say whatever you want. Greg Popovich has not won since Tim Duncan retired. Now you're bringing in a 70-year-old coach, if he's available, if he becomes available. And by the way, you're going to have to trade for him, so you're going to have to give up probably a Karis LeVert and possibly a draft pick in return for Greg Popovich. Because they're not just going to give him away. And he's still under contract. And that's a lot to give up for a 70-year-old coach that hasn't won in a very long time.
Well, he hasn't won also because
Don't make an excuse, because there is no excuse. He has not won in about 5 years now.
Okay, but it's also the league has changed a lot since when he started coaching.
And everybody thinks he's still the best coach in the NBA. Well, if you're the best coach in the NBA, it doesn't matter who you're coaching, you win.
Right, but the coaching element of the NBA has only been limited to certain teams, though, too, where because it's a player-driven league, all superstar tandems
So you're willing
will take
to give
over.
up. So you're willing to give up Karis LeVert and a first-round draft pick for Greg Popovich. Is that what you're saying? You're willing to give up a guy that can probably score you in the future. This kid's only 22, 23 years old. He's not even in the prime of his career. He's playing great basketball right now. He's been the best player. In this past week, he's been the best player in the league. And you're willing to give up Karis LeVert, who you drafted at number 19, number 20. He was a gem. He's probably one of the best players in that year's draft. You're willing to give him up and a first-round draft pick for Greg Popovich.
Okay, here's the reason why, one of which is Karis LeVert has been injury-prone throughout his career.
So what? That's not an excuse.
Okay.
You're giving up a player of that magnitude for a guy that hasn't won.
Okay. For a guy that hasn't won, but he's still been very good with less talent after Duncan retired. They still were playoff teams every year. Playing against... Okay.
It's about winning championships.
Right.
And Greg Popovich will be the first person to tell you that.
Right, but again... The teams were never the best teams once he retired. They were a top 5 seed with Kawhi Leonard sitting out the whole year and not playing at all. Who was the best player? LaMarcus Aldridge, who you say is overrated all the time. So
he is overrated.
So exactly. So not many coaches would get them to a top 5 seed amidst all that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: when you think of the particular argument of Greg Popovich going to the Brooklyn Nets. My question isn't that Greg Popovich isn't a good coach. My question is, what is one guy who's sitting on the bench going to make this team better? Now, Kevin Durant's coming to the team, so that already makes the team better. If you had Kenny Atkinson there, what's the difference? Now, Popovich has a winning stability background, but he also had one of the best GMs running the organization. And he also had arguably Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward in NBA history. Since then, he hasn't won anything. He hasn't gone anywhere. And I don't care what Jeff's going to say, well, he's in the Western Conference and that's why he's nowhere. My argument here is you're not going to give away possibly a star player and a first-round draft pick for Greg Popovich, a washed-up Greg Popovich, who, yes, is a great coach, was a great coach, no longer a great coach. Go ahead, put him through, Speedy. What's up, Jeff? How are you, Jeff? How are you, Jeff? How are you?
I'm good, Errol. How are you?
I'm good.
Listen, man, if I'm the Nets, I make that trade all day long.
And of course,
I agree.
And of course, you would say something like that. And why would you make that trade every single day?
Here's why I would make that trade. The Nets draft pick is you can always find outliers in the draft that have been drafted where the Nets are going to be drafting, which is like 10 or below, that become superstars. You're always going to be able to find those outliers. However, not most of the time, many of those guys don't pan out. So I don't think that the draft pick is a big deal. I would let Karis LeVert go because you still have Spencer Dinwiddie, getting Kevin Durant back. But I think most importantly for the Nets is you need a coach that can manage personalities that can't just be run out of town like the guy they just ran out, or they're talking about Tyronn Lue or something like that. You can't have a coach that's just going to be pushed around by the players. You can't have it.
And I agree with you. But again, Greg Popovich is not the same Greg Popovich from 5 years ago. This is an older, brittle guy that you could see him on the bench. He's not the same charismatic coach we've seen over the years with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, you can say what you want, and I believe Tim Duncan will be the next head coach of the Spurs. If Popovich leaves, I believe Tim Duncan will be the next head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. But that's not even my argument here. My argument is that you're going to give up on a player that could become a star and a first-round draft pick that could still be close to a lottery pick. They might not make the playoffs. They might fall out of the playoffs right now, losing Kenny Atkinson. They could be the 14th or 13th pick and maybe move up because of the way the draft and the lottery is now. So you're willing to give that up for Greg Popovich, who has not won. He hasn't
won
won
in a Western Conference that's filled with other teams.
That is not an excuse, Speedy. When everybody says you're the best coach in the NBA and you're not winning, your fingers are going to point at him if he's not winning.
Okay,
I don't want to hear it.
How many of the guys that you consider the best coach in the NBA are on teams that have these superstars?
Again, that's not an argument, and that's not I'm not going to accept that answer.
That's not even the question for me, though. The question for me is, name a coach that they can get, or that's available, or whoever. Who's the next coach of the Nets that can manage personalities, especially one that has a terrible attitude like Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, may be a franchise killer?
Well, again, if you're going to bring Greg Popovich in, how are you going to tell everybody that you're going to still be able to control Kyrie Irving? Greg Popovich, over the years, and he's had problems with Kawhi Leonard. There's nothing hidden behind that. There are facts to that story. And you think that Greg Popovich right now, going into this season, everybody expected the Spurs to be somewhat of a playoff team. They're not even going to make the playoffs. Right now, they're under 500 by what, 5 games? And you're hearing stories that the Spurs might be willing to trade Greg Popovich, but they're going to ask for a king's ransom. They might ask for another first-round draft pick.
But if there's a team that survived all these, it's the Nets.
So you think adding Greg Popovich
has a record? At least Popovich has a record of dealing with personalities, Tony Parker and Tim Duncan and star guys. He has a record of dealing with star players. You still haven't answered. If Pop isn't the guy for the Nets, who's going to be the guy that the Nets can bring in
again?
That they can't just run out of town.
Again. Maybe even if it's not Greg Popovich, there are not, and even if it is Greg Popovich, who's to say that Greg Popovich is going to be able to control Kyrie Irving? Because he couldn't. He's a
long-time respected NBA coach.
He couldn't control Kawhi Leonard. He couldn't control Kawhi
But also
Leonard.
remember, Kyrie Irving, when he initially got traded to Boston, had the Spurs as one of the teams he wanted to go to, too, because of Greg Popovich.
He's had problems with LaMarcus Aldridge for how many years? I don't want to hear it, Speedy. He's had problems with these two players, and both of them, they were going to try to trade LaMarcus Aldridge last year. They couldn't trade him. And then they decided to move on from Kawhi Leonard because he didn't want to be there anymore. And that had a lot to do with Greg Popovich.
Okay, you don't like Greg Popovich.
I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm not giving Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy. Van
Gundy probably is going to be the Knicks coach, right? Isn't that what everyone's saying?
No, I don't think Jeff Van Gundy's going to take that job. I don't. I think he'll be interviewed. I think the guys that you're going to be looking at, and I've been saying this over and over again, I think it's Mark Jackson or Tom Thibodeau. I think it's one or the other. And now that Kenny Atkinson is available and he's a New York native, he will be a guy that the Knicks will absolutely interview for the position. Now, does it mean he's going to get the job? Probably not, because I believe Rose has his thoughts on who he wants to take over. And again, I'm going to say this, and I've said this over and over again. I think it's Tom Thibodeau. I think he fits what the Knicks need. They need a defensive-minded guy that is not going to – he's going to demand defense. That's something the Knicks haven't had for years.
That's a great graphic, by the way. I do love that graphic. It's beautiful.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. But I will tell you this, Jeff. You're right. If you were the Nets right now, and if you were a Net fan right now, would you take Greg Popovich for Karis LeVert in a first-round draft pick? Most Net fans will say yes. But what Greg Popovich are you going to get? Are you going to get the Greg Popovich of the late 90s, early 2000 San Antonio Spurs? Or are you going to get an old Greg Popovich that's going to sit on the bench and demand things from players that still won't listen to him? Because there are players right now. DeRozan, I've been hearing stories from San Antonio that DeRozan and Greg Popovich have had problems too. And that's why he wants out of San Antonio as well. That's not a good sign.
I would want Greg Popovich for one reason only, truthfully, is because, let's be honest here. Kyrie Irving now has the rap that he's a franchise killer, that he's the cancer in the locker room and can't get along with anyone. And if he can't straighten up for Pop, then he's not going to straighten up for anybody. It would be a make or break moment for Kyrie's reputation.
But how are you going to get rid of that contract? You have him for the next 4 years. You gave him a long-term deal. And you're not going to be able to move on from him. You're going to have to move on from Greg Popovich, a.k.a. Kenny Atkinson, who everybody loved last year. Oh, he's the greatest. Oh, look what he did with the Nets. And then this year, in the second half of the season, they get rid of him. I mean, that's saying a lot.
A lot of people believe that's Kyrie's doing, though.
It could be Kyrie Irving's doing, or it could be something else with the organization. They just didn't want him there anymore. Maybe Marks decided, you know what? He speaks too much. I don't want him to speak anymore. I don't want him to speak to the press the way he's been speaking to the press, giving them information about the organization. Because if you watch the Nets press conferences, Kenny Atkinson is very open with the press. He's telling you what's going on in the locker room. He's telling you what's going on with the team and why the team isn't playing well. And there are a lot of coaches, a.k.a. David Fizdale, who still, even when he got fired, didn't speak up on what was going on in the locker room. And hence the reason why this guy Miller, who nobody's even heard of, has been better as a head coach than David Fizdale, the Knicks' number one pick. So, again, I don't know. I really don't know where the Nets are going with this, and maybe they do get Greg Popovich. I don't know if this is going to make them a championship competitive team. It will give them something to talk. It will give the league something to talk about in the offseason. Oh, the Nets got Greg Popovich, and Kevin Durant's coming back, and Kyrie Irving's going to be healthy. Blah 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 blah. That's not going to make them a championship competitive team.
Doesn't guarantee it, but it boosts their chances in an already weak Eastern Conference.
How? You're giving away your third best player. By far, your third best player.
Okay.
And you're giving up a first-round draft pick and possibly another first round, because I know the Spurs are going to ask for a king's ransom for Greg Popovich. If you want Greg Popovich, you're going to have to open your pockets.
Their third best player?
I'm sorry?
Is Karis LeVert their third
I think
best
so,
player?
and it's not.
I think talent-wise he is, but again, he's always injury-prone too. So
I like Spencer Dinwiddie.
And they're talking about trading him next year. They're talking about trading him already because Kyrie Irving and him have not gotten along in the locker room. I don't know about you, Jeff. I know you live in Tampa, but over here in New York, everything that I've heard is Kyrie Irving and Spencer Dinwiddie are not getting along in the locker room. And they've been trying to move him. They were trying to move him at the trade deadline. So,
I mean, but again, look at what's happening right now in Brooklyn, okay? And I don't want to rehash old things, but there was a major revolt in Boston last year. Al Horford had to go to Philadelphia because he didn't want to be around Kyrie Irving. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both hated Kyrie Irving. Without him, they've flourished. Who's the common denominator here? Is Jaylen Brown playing in Brooklyn? Is Jason Tatum playing in Brooklyn? Who's the guy that's upsetting the apple cart? It's Kyrie Irving. You need to find a dude that's going to be able to manage those personalities. And I don't think a guy that's been run out of Cleveland and run out of the Lakers organization and all these other things, and Tyronn Lue or some of these other guys can do it. Mm-hmm. I think your best bet is to get a Greg Popovich. And listen, maybe your alternative in Jeff Van Gundy is another good one. Maybe Jeff Van Gundy's like,
I think he's
perfect.
perfect.
I don't give a shit if I get fired or not or whatever. He's going to do the right thing. But someone has to try to rein in Kyrie Irving.
I agree. Jeff, thank you for calling. We have our special guest. We're going to actually put him through when we come back from break. Jeff, thank you for calling, my friend.
See you, man.
Jeff from Tampa, ladies and gentlemen. Always a good call. When we come back, we're going to have a special guest. If you guys don't know him, Rick Curti, the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats. And let's bring MLB to the Charlotte organization. When we come back, we will have Rick Curti on the phone.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
631-965-4990. You know what it is? We keep changing our number, and it really throws me off. But as you guys know, you can call us at 631-965-4990 and follow us on all our social medias. How do you do that? All you have to do is go to worldwidesportsradio.com. You can follow us on all our platforms. As you guys know, Speedy Petey, we have a special guest, my friends. A very, very special guest. We've been talking on Twitter for the last couple of weeks. This guy is not only respected in the baseball world, But I've read a little bit about him, and I just absolutely enjoyed reading a quick summary about what this guy is doing in Charlotte. We are speaking to Rick Curti, founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to Charlotte. What's going on, Rick? How are you? How are you, my friend? I'm going to put you up a little bit because we can't hear you. I don't know what. You're a little low over there. You hear us now?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm okay.
You're good. You're good. Put a little bit louder. A little bit louder.
Okay.
You on speakerphone?
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you a little bit. You're a little low. I'm going to try to get you up higher. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. We got you now. Hopefully we can get you so everybody can hear you. We're speaking to Rick Curti, the founder and CEO of Charlotte Bats. What's going on, Rick?
Not much. How's everybody doing out there?
We are good, my friend. And I loved when you reached out to me on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and you expressed what you wanted to do, and you want to go out there and speak to the public and tell a little bit about why Charlotte needs a professional baseball team. But my question first to you is, how did this come along? I know I read 4 years ago you wanted to bring baseball, Major League Baseball team to Charlotte, to the big city of Charlotte. Was it friends? Were you sitting in a bar hanging out with friends and said, maybe we bring a baseball team to Charlotte? How did this come about talking about this?
Pretty much it was just out of curiosity. I moved out here about 14 years ago. I'm from Los Angeles originally, and I always wondered, even before I moved here, why North Carolina has never had Major League Baseball. And so it just kind of bothered me, and I would just look and do information about it, about how the city's growth, the population, jobs, economy. We already have professional football and basketball. We got a professional hockey team in Raleigh. And I just was like, man, I mean, this city has a bigger population than like 14 cities that currently have Major League Baseball. And Milwaukee's the smallest. And I'm like, and we have another state next door, so we're like 2 states in one. And I was like, man, this is a perfect place for Major League Baseball. And I just can't figure out why. So, hey, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see if there's any interest out there. And we've been growing ever since.
You come from LA, so you're a Dodger fan, right?
Yes, I am a Dodger fan.
So what did you think about this story that came out over the summer about the Astros cheating and the Dodger players like Bellinger coming out and taking shots at Altuve, that Aaron Judge got screwed out of an MVP? What were your thoughts about what happened in the offseason with the Dodgers and the Astros?
I hated it, and it's not because I'm a Dodger fan. I hated it for baseball. To me, it was like the 1919 White Sox. To me, it was just fraud what they committed. And it wasn't just stealing signs. People keep saying, well, they were stealing signs. No, this was more elaborate. This was like, banging on trash cans and using video cameras, using like technology to cheat. And it's really sad and it's really disgusting that some of the Astros players want to downplay it and say, well, we would have won anyway. So it's bad for Major League Baseball, and I was really disappointed in the commissioner's response to it as well.
How about Charlotte? You talk about the minor league team over there. You brought the minor league team over there since '94. What are your thoughts? I understand where baseball is growing throughout the country, and me and Speedy were actually talking about, my producer over here, we're talking about what city could use a professional baseball team besides Charlotte, and I couldn't think of one. But Charlotte, I've been to Charlotte. It's a get down city right now. It's right there in the Carolina area where the towns are big. They're growing. I mean, the college is over there. What is the minor league team doing out there right now?
Well, we have a minor league baseball team called Charlotte Knights. They used to play in South Carolina. Their attendance was like 3,000. When I first moved here, the attendance was bad. And so eventually they eventually are now in Charlotte. They're in our downtown area, we call it Uptown Charlotte, where they play at, and their attendance jumped from 3,000 to 9,000 in one season, and they're one of the most popular. The stadium is beautiful. It's one of the most visited ballparks in all of minor league baseball. So the attendance is great for minor league baseball, and I'm like, man, they have good attendance, and they can support minor league baseball. Why can't we support Major League Baseball? We have so many transplants out here from all over, like Ohio, Los Angeles, Virginia, all over, and a lot of New York people here. And I told them they would like to see the Yankees come out to Charlotte to play Major League Baseball games. So there's a lot of enthusiasm about it, and we're really excited that the commissioner put this on this list in 2015 for expansion.
Rick, it actually just led to my next question. How do you think the minor league baseball teams in a pretty big state as it is, but also very good support, how do you think that could help bring in the fan bases from all parts of the state and also maybe South Carolina that's neighboring? Because I know football with the Panthers, they get a lot of fans down there in South Carolina and with the Hurricanes as well. How do you think that could help in terms of getting fan bases to commit to that area? Because there's not much other baseball in even some of the neighboring states, really, besides the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I mean, we're like 4.5 hours from Atlanta, and we're like 9 hours from Washington, D.C. So to me, this is a perfect market, and I think they would be very enthusiastic. And I know our city would be. I mean, you can't turn down millions and millions of dollars to see a team here and the jobs it would provide. So we would get a lot of response from our pro teams, from our city council, from our legislation. And I've talked to people in legislation, and no matter what party they were affiliated, they all want to see Major League Baseball, and it would be very excited. So it would be a lot of enthusiasm, and it would be like a whole project for not just me doing it, but our whole state would be involved as well.
We are speaking to Rick Curti, founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to Charlotte. Rick, my question to you is, you're looking at baseball right now, season's around the corner. This is the earliest the baseball season's going to start in almost 25 years, which is, we remember that baseball usually starts the second week of April, or really the end of the first week. Now all of a sudden we're starting at the end of March, which is, what baseball's trying to do. And baseball now is trying to cut games possibly in the future and make more playoffs, and make more teams make the playoffs. It's crazy because I think the rules and the changes where the major league is trying to transition the new age of baseball to the millennial guys, the millennial kids that are into baseball now, and trying to make the game faster. My question to you is the rules, the different changing of the rules, like the umpires, maybe having a robot call the strikes behind the plate. Do you think this transition and this change of rules is going to help baseball or make it worse?
That's a really good question. I'm old school. I hate to see technology take over sports. I know human beings make mistakes, but I'm just not really. Like I said, I'm old school, but anything to improve the game, and I know why they're doing it, because like you said, the young people are just not going to the games. The attendance in Major League Baseball has fallen off in the last 5 or 6 years, and people are just not going to games. So a lot of it has to do with the games not being fast enough or anything like that. So, for me, it's so weird and so different to see all this technology, but at the same time, I get it. I understand why they're doing it. And they want to attract not only the young people, but unfortunately, the young African American population don't want to play baseball. They all want to play football. They want to be the next LeBron James, and so that's another demographic that they've not done well at all. So I understand it and I get it. It's going to take me a while to get used to it, but I understand why they're doing it. So anything to improve the game and to bring more people, I'm all in favor for.
Rick, if you had a solution to solving this issue that baseball claims they have, even though it's, again, only certain fans, how would you fix it?
Well, what I would do is I would just reach out more to the community. That would be more for younger people, maybe do more kind of like events to attract the younger people. I've heard that they want to, I heard things like they might want to make it to 7 innings. Instead of 9 innings, maybe they could do an XFL version of baseball, kind of make it.
Please don't.
Make it more quicker. I know the batters getting out of the batter's box, so I think what I would just do, I just would, kind of make it not as long. I'm not a fan of DH, and I think that's one of the reasons games take long, because of the DH. I'm my favorite pitch is batting. I think the DH just takes too long. I would just reach out more to the community, reach out to people, and just, get them more involved. And probably I would just have a discussion group and say, what would you like to see in baseball? Why do you not watch it? Just ask the fans, what do you want from it? What would benefit from it? And I don't think Major League Baseball has done that. I think that they made so much money, from the TV deals and the licensing deals, and the attendance has dropped, and you hear all these weird rules like robot umpires and all this stuff. But I would just ask the fans, like, what do you guys want to see? What do you guys want? What is football doing? What is basketball doing that Major League Baseball is missing? And I think if we can get that together and work with, like, maybe the NBA, work with the NFL, and to just, see what they're doing, I think that could solve a lot of problems.
We are speaking to Rick Curti, founder, CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to Charlotte. Rick, my question for you with baseball as a whole, when you look at Rob Manfred, and we were just talking about the Astros, and we talk about Pete Rose, and this has been bothering me since the whole Astros thing came out over the summer, really throughout the off season, throughout the winter, and then you're hearing about the Red Sox possibly cheating as well and doing what they did with what the Astros did. My thoughts to this: has Rob Manfred done the right thing on trying to punish not only the GM and the coach, but really punish the team and the organization and the owner enough for this never to happen again? And that, to me, has been a big story right now. And now fans are coming out and taking shots at the Astros organization, and they want the Astros to give them back some of their money, or let them, all the season ticket holders, to get a huge 50, 60% discount off this year's season.
Well, I respect the commissioner, but I think the way he handled it has been absolutely abysmal. I think to say that the big punishment is shame is really disgraceful, because they still get the kids' money. They're still making millions of dollars. They're still playing. They didn't even get suspended. It's crazy. They should have been suspended for at least a year. And to me, what they have done is just as bad as what Pete Rose has done. I mean, they actually stained the game by what they're doing, and they won a world championship with it. And it just reminds me of the 1919 Black Sox, the whole 8-man out, where they, gamble, throw away games, so that, in the World Series, it almost ruined baseball, and hopefully this won't ruin baseball at all. They're trying so hard to appease the people, and yet you see something like this going on. It's just really disgraceful, in my opinion. And to me, the Astros, what they have done is no better than what Pete Rose or Shoeless Joe Jackson has done. So the way he handled it has been bad. Comparing the World Series trophy as a piece of metal, which he later apologized for, was bad. And it just seemed very tone deaf as his explanation. I mean, they should have been suspended for a year. They should have been stripped of the title. They should have just left it vacant. And, a lot of people would be saying, well, you're a Dodger fan. Don't you feel like? I feel like that with anybody, even if it was like the Tampa Bay Rays or somebody. This is bad for Major League Baseball. And the commissioner, the way he's handled it, has been bad. And now all these players are getting hit with the Astros. They're all being already targeted for, which I don't agree with. Shouldn't go targeting after them, and you can severely hurt somebody. So it's just bad right now for baseball. And if the commissioner did something like just suspend them for a season or just give them away their title, I think people would be like, okay, at least he did something about it. But and just their answer, the Astros they were taking so much ownership to it, and then little by little they started saying, well, it wasn't as bad as you say it is, and even if we did do all that, where everyone else is doing it, and and it's just really sad that that's the way they're going, saying they would have won it anyway, and it's just not right at all.
Rick, I've always said that the Astros players and other executives haven't been suspended yet because Major League Baseball is waiting to see what's going on with the whole Red Sox investigation. They're using a replay room, then getting sign-stealing methods from Alex Cora when he came over and were their manager for the last 2 years. Do you think maybe they aren't going to do it at some point, and then they'll suspend the players maybe later in the season once they find out what happens with the Red Sox. How connected do you think those two cases are into why that Major League Baseball hasn't done anything impulsively besides Hinch and Luhnow so far?
I have no idea if they were. I mean, a lot of the players of the Astros got immunity for it just to tell what's been going on. So for that was wrong. So honestly, I don't think they're going to get suspended at all. Like the commissioner said, that their punishment is going to be shame. And their punishment is going to be that they should have an asterisk, and people are never going to give them the proper respect like other championships have won it. And to me, that's just not good enough. I mean, shame it's ridiculous. You know, they don't have shame. The only reason they're sorry is because they got caught. And honestly, whatever happens with with the Red Sox, I don't think anything will happen to the Astros. I think the commissioner kind of just wants this to go away. I think he's just going to, I don't know, to sweep it under the rug. He just wants nothing to do with this. And it's just not good at all. It's just that there needs to be more transparency in baseball. So in my opinion, I don't think Altuve or the rest of them are going, I don't think anything's going to happen. So I'll be surprised, and I'll hope I'm wrong. I hope that a lot of them do get suspended for at least a season. But some of them, I mean, they shouldn't even be playing baseball right now. I mean, it's really sad. You know, and then Pete Rose came out and said what they have done is worse than what he did.
Absolutely.
I agree with him.
Absolutely.
He's the last person I really want to hear, cry me a river, Pete Rose. He's been doing this for the past 20 years. So, he's like the last person to be like saying what's right and what's wrong. So, but to me, what they have done is like what Pete Rose has done. It's like what the steroids, what they have done, because to me that was cheating. And to me, I just compare the Astros to the 1919 Black Sox of Sheila's Joe Jackson.
I'm sorry, Rick, and I agree with a lot of things that you said so far in this interview, but I absolutely disagree with the Pete Rose thing. Pete Rose, what he did was not anywhere close to what the Astros did. I'm sorry. He bet on his own team. And the fact that the Major League Baseball has sat down with this guy year in and year out, and I used to think that Rob Manfred was the best the best commissioner in professional sports. He's not been. I'm sorry he's not been, because this is a guy in Pete Rose that has every single piece of his baseballs, his bats, his jerseys are all hanging up in the Hall of Fame. And this guy, who's one of the greatest, if not the greatest hitter of all time, is still not inducted into the Hall of Fame. To me, that's a catastrophe. And what the Major League is doing to him, especially this whole Astros thing and this whole take that the manager and the GM are only suspended for 1 year and they can come back to baseball, to me, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And the major leagues and Rob Manfred, I'm telling you right now, Rob Manfred, when he becomes available, when CBA is up or his contract is up with the owners, I believe he will be fired because of this whole Astros thing. The way he handled this Astros story was not good enough for any of the fans. It's not good enough for the owners, the players. Everybody is upset about it, and his answers to it are not good enough. I'm sorry, it's not good enough. And to be honest with you, sweeping things under the rug like Roger Goodell, look where Roger Goodell is. He's making a lot of money, no question. But how many people hate the guy? How many fans hate the guy that every time you hear his name, they're booing him? So, to me, yeah, he's making the money. Yes, he's bringing baseball in more money. He's trying to figure out ways for baseball to grow. But he's not helping baseball for letting the Astros get away with this particular story, which, to me, is even worse than steroids. It's absolutely worse than steroids. You cheated 3 years and cheated how many teams out of a World Series championship, and you only won one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Astros never won anything. They didn't even go to a World Series till in the 90s where they got swept. And you're going to tell me that their cheating didn't profit from them? They went to 2 World Series in the last 5 years and finally won one. And, I totally agree. They should just be banished. They should be just gone away, forget about. And he's handled it wrong. And I think that eventually they will get rid of Commissioner Manfred. And, they're going to have to totally clean their image. I think who would make a terrific commissioner would be Cal Ripken Jr., a man of integrity, a man that people respect, the Iron Horse who never missed a game in 18 years, a record that nobody thought would be broken. if there isn't a player that doesn't have the respect in Major League Baseball, it's Cal Ripken. And if I was like in charge of Major League Baseball, I would just get rid of Manfred and put Cal Ripken if he's interested, and just bring back the integrity of the game, because the integrity of the game is lost. And yeah, I've lost so much respect for Manfred for what he's done. I thought he was one of the best commissioners,
He was,
brightest minds ever, and for the way he's handled this whole thing, it's been it's a catastrophe. It's just really
a joke.
It's
absolute
it's a joke,
joke.
and there's no accountability for the Astros. They keep everything.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
it is absolutely disgusting. And how baseball is handling this, I disagree completely. And this is why this is still a story. And the season's 2 weeks away. And I don't think it's going to be hidden. The Astros are going to be thrown at. And I do believe that I don't care what the Astros do this year. Some people think they're going to be a playoff contender. Some people think they're still a championship competitive team. But you're hearing Justin Verlander is not even starting the season. He's going to be out for at least 2 or 3 weeks because of this lat pull. So already you're starting to think that this is going to be a bad year for the Astros. And if it is a bad year, people are going to be pointing the fingers how many bad years they could have had if they didn't cheat. So that, to me, is the story. Again, we're talking to Rick Curti, founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats. And let's bring MLB to Charlotte. Last question for me, Rick, before we let you go. And my question is, if I was Manfred right now, and I was sitting with you right now, and I asked you, why should I pick your city than every other city that I've been talking about for expansion teams, bringing expansion baseball to that city? Why should I pick Charlotte?
Well, we would pick Charlotte because we would be a team in the South. You know, to me, one of the true teams in the South is Atlanta. You only have a team in Georgia. I mean, you got Florida and Texas, but, you know, I think having another team in the South would be great. It'd be a great rivalry with Atlanta. You don't have Major League Baseball in Virginia. You don't have Major League Baseball in South Carolina. And so we can have that market right there. We'd be 2 states in one. Our minor league baseball team is one of the largest attended in all of minor league baseball. We have already shown that we can support professional sports by having the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets, and we have the Carolina Hurricanes at Raleigh. We have so many transplants out here, people from New York. We're big Yankee fans. We have Oriole fans here. We have National fans here. We got fans all over. We have Dodger fans like myself here. Our economy is strong, we're known for the banking community, so we have sponsors are here, like Bank of America's headquartered here. We have Duke Energy's that's headquartered here, so you have no problems with sponsors. This is one of the fastest growing cities in the last 30 years, and I think what makes it different is that having another state next door to us that doesn't have any professional sports at all. They just have Clemson, and they have the Gamecocks, and they have a minor league baseball team, and that's it. So you can draw from those people there. So I think that's what makes our state very special and very unique.
As you guys know, we're talking to Rick Curti. He is the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats. And let's bring MLB to Charlotte. I'll tell you this, Rick. If you do get a major league team, just remember us, because we would love to be your play-by-play guys. I'll tell you that right now. We have a guy right here sitting right next to me who's one of the best play-by-play guys when it comes to sports as a whole. He's a great play-by-play guy, and I'm the color guy. I'm the funny guy. I'm the crazy guy, and I like to cause the trouble. I like to cause the trouble. So, Rick, why don't you tell everybody how they can find you, and we're going to stay in touch, my friend.
Our website is www.charlottebats.com. We actually have a petition on there. It tells about the history of North Carolina and Charlotte, and about our organization, and a little bit about me. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. We're on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. We are on Facebook at Charlotte Bats. And we just started a new group page called Let's Bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte. And I have all my pictures of all my interviews I've done, and actually pictures of famous people like Cal Ripken Jr., who we were talking to, and Eddie Murray, and honestly, Archibald Moonlight Graham for the movie Field of Dreams.
Love that movie.
Guy from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. He played for the Charlotte Hornets baseball team. And so it talks about the history of Charlotte and all these stars that played here. So You can reach me there, and if you have any questions, we're at charlottebatsbaseball@gmail.com, and just ask me a question or how you'd like to get involved.
As you guys know, we are speaking, and we just spoke to Rick Curti, founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to Charlotte. Rick, thank you for giving us the time, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll talk more, my friend.
Thank you.
Rick Curti, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, before we get into debate hour, we're going to get into this whole Hawks and what the CEO has come out and said about what the NBA should do with the regular season and how it could bring in more revenue. And we're going to talk about Doug Glanville, who he played for the major leagues. He also played for the Cubs and the Phillies. He said something very, very interesting about the Astros and the cheating scandal. When we come back, we'll get into that before debate hour. 631-965-4990. This is Down to the Wire, and we'll be back after this.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Six 631-965-4990 is the number. As you guys know, this is Down to the Wire, and we are live every single Monday and Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night Eastern Time. I'm here with Speedy Petey, the pain in the butt Speedy Petey, as he is playing King Wishful Thinking, as you guys know, the 80s song. I actually showed Speedy this song, and he now
I never heard of it before until you showed it to me last month or whatever.
Now he's a big fan of the song.
I am.
So there you go. So he sings it to bed, everybody. He sings it in his jammies, as you guys know. As you know, you can follow us by going to our website at worldwidesportsradio.com, and you can follow us on all the platforms. And guys, if you're not on radio.com and subscribe to us, we really appreciate it. And our app should be out eventually. I don't know, I've been saying this for a couple of months, so whenever it comes out, I'll let you guys know. So I'm not going to blow it up
Classic
until
Apple.
it happens. Yeah, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. These different, rules and regulations that Apple has just throws me off on really what this organization is all about. And I like Apple products. I really do. I'm not a big fan of their phones, but I like their computers. I like their iMacs and their MacBooks. I'm just not a big fan of their phones. And obviously their phones, the iOS system, is the worst system known to man, because for some reason they're not approving the different coding and different codes that we're trying to possess on our app. So hopefully very, very soon in the near future, our app will be up so you guys can download it and follow us and watch us and read our stories. We're very excited when it does come out to promote it and push it for the near future. But I do want to get into these two stories before our debate hour. We're going to go to a quick break after these two stories, and we're going to get the debate questions up. There's only going to be 3 debate questions today. Tomorrow there'll be more. The story about Doug Glanville, and Speedy actually gave me the story before the show started, and Doug Glanville actually played for the Phillies and the Cubs over, I think he was an infielder, right?
Outfielder.
How many years did he play in the major leagues?
I'm not sure, but he played during the steroid era.
All right, so there you go, and maybe he did steroids. I don't know, and he hasn't come out. There was no stories coming out that he did do steroids, but he said something interesting in this article that came out today. And
1996 to 2004.
Okay, so and he had 3,964 at bats. He had 1,100 hits, so he had a decent major league career, and he batted .277 in his whole career. So that's not bad numbers. But Doug Glanville actually came out today stating that the steroid era is worse than Spygate, or whatever you want to call it, Cameragate, with the Houston Astros. And I'm going to tell you this, Doug, and I don't know you personally, and I'm looking at your numbers as a major league player. Those aren't really that bad numbers, but I don't care how many years you played in the major leagues, and I don't care what you have to say about the steroid era. The steroid era saved baseball. It saved baseball when the strike came around in 94, 95. And then when baseball came back with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, you didn't see Bud Selig complain about the steroid era, did you? You didn't. Because Bud Selig knew that baseball was falling apart and they needed something to drive it forward. And Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were the type of guys to do it. Now, I understand Rafael Palmeiro lied to Congress, and we've heard stories behind stories about who was taking steroids and who wasn't taking steroids. Alex Rodriguez threatening people's lives because he was taking steroids and he wanted to keep it a secret. To me, and you can say whatever you want, steroids is nowhere close to what the Houston Astros did in the last 3 seasons. Not even close. And the fact that you talk about the way Congress got involved with the steroid issue. Why isn't Congress getting involved with the Astros cheating?
Maybe because it's not a league-wide thing. Maybe it's just because it's a one-team thing.
A one-team thing. It affected revenue for organizations like the Yankees, like the Dodgers. That could. I understand. Everybody says like they need the money. But
yeah, I was just going to say that.
Nevertheless, that took away millions and millions of dollars through revenue from the Yankees, and maybe champions from the Dodgers, the Yankees, maybe the Phillies, whoever was in the playoffs in the last couple of years that had a chance. And obviously not the Phillies because they're from the National League, but the American League teams that played the Astros over the years. The Red Sox being one of them a couple of years ago, getting swept out of the playoffs, and they were the number 1 seed in the American League. And Altuve hitting 3 home runs against Chris Sale in the first game of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I wonder how he did that. But to me, baseball, since this story came out, has been an absolute mockery. And Rob Manfred is the trophy man. He's the counter man in the face of this catastrophe. And it is a catastrophe. And you could say whatever you want. And owners could say, well, it's not going to affect the season. It already has.
Oh, and it will all season.
It already has. You have players, big-time superstars like Bellinger, who won the MVP last year, and Aaron Judge, who should have won the MVP 3 years ago. It was him and Altuve, and Altuve won. I mean, you've had players, Giancarlo Stanton coming out and saying that if he knew what pitch was coming at him, he'd hit 80 home runs in a season.
If he stays healthy.
When you have players coming out over and over and over again, even players that have retired have come out and taken shots at the Houston Astros and that organization. And the fact that the owner has not been disciplined, to me, is an absolute mockery. And the fact that Doug Glanville, who I've never even heard of, that's why I asked you who he is and who he played for and what position he played, because I never even heard of the guy. He comes out and says the steroid era is worse than this era. That is a ridiculous statement. And to me, he should take it back.
Well, again, the difference with the steroids and the sign stealing is the sign stealing is a team-based thing. It clearly benefited one team. The steroid era benefited those certain players, but it wasn't like a whole team had 7 guys, a whole lineup using steroids, and that's why they won. Barry Bonds still only went to 1 World Series, whether you use steroids or not. Roger Clemens, I think he won, 2 World Series, but again, he wasn't in the playoffs all the time with the certain teams he was on.
It'd be different if Barry Bonds came out and said something about this particular situation, because Barry Bonds is one of the greatest baseball players to ever live, or a Willie Mays, or somebody like that, or even a Derek Jeter come out and say that this is complete mockery. But for somebody like Doug Glanville, who nobody's even heard of, nobody even knows who he is, and if you weren't a Philadelphia Phillies fan or Chicago Cubs fan, you wouldn't even know that he's played in the major leagues. And he's coming out and saying this is a guy that has not hit more than 100 home runs in his career in baseball, and he was in the major leagues for 9 years. And I'm not saying he was a bad baseball player, because if you make the major leagues, you're one of the best baseball players in the world. But the fact is that he's coming out and saying that. Who the hell is Doug Glanville? I mean, that's the way I look at it. I could care less what Doug Glanville says. If Pete Rose came out and said something, that's Pete Rose.
But again, it also speaks to the credibility, though, too, because you're seeing steroid-era players be more credible on their era, whereas you're seeing with the Astros, they're not being credible with themselves at all. Doug Glanville probably played at some point with Sammy Sosa, who was one of the big steroid guys, and he's taking shots at him, and okay, rightfully so. Now you're seeing only guys that have left the Astros, guys like Ken Giles, who got traded to the Blue Jays, Colin McHugh, who was on that 2017 team, and then hasn't made the rotation since. Only those guys are speaking, and obviously Mike Fiers is the guy who started it. It's not guys that are currently on the roster, so at least he has the guts to take that shot at his own era, because again, steroids is wrong. I know you don't think it matters, but it is wrong in a sense. But you're right, where this kind of thing, if you know what pitch is coming, it's clearly much more an advantage because baseball's not just about hitting home runs too. If you know what kind of pitch is coming, you could line it for a single. You could rip it in a center field for a double and drive in the winning run in key situations. That's why it matters for the postseason.
You don't even have to know where the ball is going because you
Right.
can practically guess.
Right.
Because you know if let's say Garrett Cole is pitching a curveball, you know where his curveballs usually fall.
Mm-hmm.
So you can guess where the pitch, where the ball is going to land, where it gives you a better chance of getting connected with
Right,
the
and
ball.
with the cameras, you can look at the windups, you can look at the spin rate, you can look at different things, the way it moves, where you wouldn't be able to do that naturally in a game, just either standing in the batter's box or standing in the dugout angle. It's not easy to see it all the way. Now, again, I have no problem with natural sign stealing, but again, that's not going to happen on every angle. If you steal signs naturally, that's fine. That's a challenge. That's part of the game. Doing it electronically, where you could focus the camera like that, is a whole different just thing of
Cheating.
wrong. Right.
It's cheating. So I disagree with Doug Glanville, and I think he's absolutely wrong. And I think this guy needs to. I don't care how long he played in the major leagues, and I don't care. Maybe he knows somebody on the Astros, or he knows AJ Hinge, or he knows the GM of the Astros organization. Maybe he's best friends with the owner of the Astros. I don't give a crap. The fact is they were cheating, and if you're cheating, you should be suspended, or something should be mandatorily taken away from that organization, and it hasn't been done enough by Rob Manfred. And Manfred should be fired. The ownership should fire him. Now, I don't know. I think his contract's up. I think they signed 5 or 6 year deals, and I think he signed it 2 or 3 years ago. So Rob Manfred maybe has 2 or 3 years left on his contract as the baseball commissioner. With this particular situation, and he's not Bud Selig, I don't know how many years we're going to have left that Rob Manfred is going to be the commissioner of this organization.
So it ends in 2024 because it was given to him.
4 years.
Yeah. So the year that just completed was the first year of the 5-year deal. So up until 2024 is when.
So that's not a
signed.
good sign. If that was your first year from contract and this happens your first year, that's not a good sign for Rob Manfred. And now you're hearing stories that he wants. What does he want? Robotic umpires in the back of home plate. I mean, that could ruin baseball automatically. I mean, so and it wasn't
people
Bud
could probably
Selig.
find a way to steal signs with the robots for all we know.
I don't know, but I think that this is going to be a rocky 4 years for Rob Manfred, especially his first year coming off a year where there was cheating with the Houston Astros, and they've been doing it for years under Bud Selig's
And maybe with the Red Sox, too.
reign. So, even the Bo Sox. If the Bo Sox get caught cheating as well, that's just another asterisk on his name for the next couple of years. And I'm telling you right now, the ownership, players are not happy that he did nothing to the Houston Astros. He did absolutely nothing. That their own fans are trying to get money back because of what the Astros have done. They're suing. There's a fan suing the Astros for $1 million. So he's not going to be the only one. He's not going to be the last one. And I think the Major League Baseball has to look at just what the fans are saying in Houston. Not only the players, but the fans of the Houston Astros are saying about the team and the organization and how it was run. So it's not a good sign for the Houston Astros. And Doug Glanville, he doesn't really put himself on the top of the list of people you want to interview. We should reach out to Doug Glanville and get him on the show. We really should.
You would challenge him.
Yeah, I would challenge him.
That'd be quite an interesting interview.
Because I think he's an idiot, if you ask me. And last story before we go to break in debate hour. There's a story coming out that the Hawks CEO, Steve Cunningham, starts the season. He's really starting the season on trying to figure out when the new CBA laws come out in the next year, where the NBA should go with their seasons. Now, he has come out and said in this article that he believes the NBA should start in December and end the playoff final should be in the middle of August. And if that's the case, and as everybody knows, the NBA draft is in July.
June.
Well, it's the end of June, July.
July, I think, is when free agency starts.
When you think about it that way, when do they expect to have the off season? What is it, 2 months? That's all you're saying that August should be the end of the season. September, October, November, December. So you
I
got
don't think
3
the
months.
length would be any
3 months.
different because you're shifting the start of the season 2 months and you're ending the season 2 months later from what it already is.
But it's weird. It's weird because the NBA really builds and promotes their product in the month of November going into Christmas. Now all of a sudden they're going to be promoting it through Christmas, through the New Year. I just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And the way they're supposed to build a product. And here's the thing: the NBA is now, they're elevating their TV deals, and now the players are going to make more money, and the CBA is going to make more money, and the players union is going to make more money. Why would the players agree to this? When the players realize that their off season in the summertime is better, going to distinct areas like Hawaii or training in New York or training in LA, than going and starting the season or ending the season in August, where you're going to start training and getting ready for the next season in September, October, which to me is not good for the players, especially the cold and really the massive training that they do in the off season. So I don't think this benefits the players. It might benefit the owners and might benefit maybe the playoffs.
Well, if there's more TV deals that come with this, because that was, I think, the main incentive for why Koonin decided to do this.
I don't know if that's going to.
The players could end up getting more.
I don't think it's going to drive more TV deals because they have the biggest TV deal out of all the sports right now. They have the biggest TV deal,
right? But
out
also,
of all the sports.
I think what it said in the article that I was reading, the timing of it is also going to help, considering August. It's
never going to happen.
It's only preseason football, which nobody cares about really. It's baseball that's still in the regular season, which is, again, later in the season, so it means more, but it's still not is going to be watched as much. So I think that, in essence, could help boost the ratings.
It's not going to boost anything because it's never going to happen. There's no way the players' union, especially the NBA's players' union, are going to accept this. Because it doesn't make sense.
You don't think they would do that to boost potential raises of the max contracts, which are currently $40 million?
They're making tons and tons of money. They
don't
need
but they
to make
could make
more
more,
money.
Is what I'm saying. You don't think they would want to do that?
No, because I think the players are going to realize that right now, the way the season is built, is better right now that they have their summers and their vacations with their families. Remember, their kids have school. They go back to school. The players only get to see their kids maybe 2 months in a year, to see their kids at a significant amount of times because they're traveling and they're traveling 40 games, 42 games in a season, 41 games in a season. They don't really get the chance to see their kids and their family. And the fact that you're going to take that away from the players because they want to start the season later, I don't think it makes sense. It really doesn't.
But again, not every player is going to be playing in the NBA Finals.
Doesn't matter.
Later in the playoffs.
It's not fair to the
either.
players that are. You understand? It has nothing to do with it. It's not fair. So you're telling me LeBron James, he plays in the playoffs every single year, and he expects the time with his children, his sons that are going through high school, and he wants to go and watch him play basketball. He's not going to get a chance to do that because, oh my God, he's playing in the finals every single year. That's not fair to LeBron James. It's not fair to the players that are in the playoffs. So to me, it doesn't matter. And the players are not going to handle that right, and they're not going to accept that because they want a chance to see their kids grow, a.k.a. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, for how many years? 20 years of playing basketball, barely saw his family. And now, after he retired 2 years ago, he's gone. He's dead. He really never got a chance to see his kids, his daughters grow. Because he dedicated his life to 20 years of professional basketball. So to me, there's no way the players' union are going to accept this, especially when they have the time and the opportunity to spend with their children and their families. So wrong, Speedy. It's not going to happen. The players' union is not going to accept this. I don't care what the NBA owners are going to do because it's all about the players' union, and they're the ones that play the game.
It definitely benefits the owners more. I'm not denying that. I'm saying
it doesn't benefit the players.
I think the shift is not really as drastic when it comes to if the players will benefit financially if the TV deals continue to go up millions of dollars where the max contracts.
How much money do you think they're going to benefit? $2 million a year? $3 million a year?
Right, which in essence gets the max contracts to 42, then to 45, then whatever. The players, especially obviously the superstars who are going to get those max contracts, could benefit off of that if it means just shifting the season. I think it could help, again, some instances. You're right, there's definitely going to be some that aren't going to like it because they're not going to be able to vacation.
It's never going to be approved.
But again, I think they already have that issue anyway, just with the way the season is structured. They play every other day. They travel a lot. That's not really going to be solved anyway.
It's never going to be approved. I'm telling you right now, this is one rule that will never be approved by the NBA. I think the tournament is a smart idea, even though the commissioner has stepped away from this tournament of teams that don't make the playoffs that could absolutely win that extra number 1 draft pick, first round draft pick. I think that should be implicated into the league and new CBA rules. But this rule is completely... This could ruin a lot of things for the NBA players. It will help the fans out because the fans can have a little bit more time to wait until the NBA season so they can watch a little bit more hockey. And who's to say hockey wouldn't copy the NBA if the NBA does that? And I think it could ruin sports as a whole. So I can't see the NBA.
I don't think the NBA really cares about that, though. I think they're always going to gain ratings over hockey.
Not the
anyway.
NBA, it's the players, and it's all about the players' union. And the players' union is not going to accept the fact that these players like to spend time with their families. And I'm sorry, Speedy, I look at that. For a player, they're making $40 million. They don't need any more money. They don't need an extra $3 or $4 million. They're making more than enough players. The bench players, the 13th guy on the bench is making $3-4 million a year. I don't think they care about the extra $500,000-$400,000 that they're going to make.
I think it would be more than that, though.
For the 13th player on the bench, no, it isn't.
Not for them. But again, I don't think that's the players they're really targeting. It's obviously the superstars.
All right, the superstars.
League.
What are they going to get? $2-3 million? That's going to be nothing for them. They make that in endorsements. There's no way the players are going to accept that. Anyways, when we come back, debate hour with me and Speedy Petey. As you guys know, we are live on Monday and Tuesday down to the wire from 6 to 8 p.m. at night. When we come back, debate hour.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
631-965-4990. As you guys know, this is the Arithmetics, and this is Sweet Dreams. As everybody knows, it was a very popular late 80s, early 90s song. So if you don't know who sings this song, it's the Arithmetics. So there you go. As you know, you can follow us by going to our website at worldwidesportsradio.com. And as you know, we have this particular moment throughout our show Down to the Wire, Monday and Tuesday. And as you guys know, this is Debate Hour.
This is the Debate Hour. And now in this corner, your host, Errol Marks. And in this corner, who gives a shit? Round 1.
All right, Speedy, give me.
All right, round 1. We're going to start with hockey today. Which current division leader in their respective conferences, it's either the Bruins, Capitals, not Leafs, Blues, or Golden Knights.
Golden Knights, yes.
Which of those division leaders has the best chance of getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and why?
All right, Speedy.
All righty. So I'm going to take Vegas in this one. I'm going to take Vegas for this reason. The Western Conference wildcard teams, a lot of them have been very good this year. The Wild are playing red hot. Nashville's a very good team that now has something to play for now with what happened to the tragedy in their city. They're going to be motivated. You got a young Vancouver team, which has been very good this year. And Vegas has been kind of top-heavy this year, and usually top-heavy teams don't do well in the postseason. Marc-Andre Fleury's been a very more below-average playoff goalie than he has been good. He was great in his first stretch with Vegas, but after that, he really hasn't been that good. And again, their defense has been okay, but again, it's really a top-heavy team. Mark Stone's been great. Marchessault's been great, but everyone else has really had a down year for the most part. Even William Karlsson, who was great for them in that first season, he's been kind of down from where he was. And again, their playoffs, they're still kind of inexperienced. They made the Stanley Cup, but again, they also collapsed down 3-1 last year against the Sharks. So what are they? They're kind of an in-between team. And I just, with the depth of the Western Conference this year, I like a lot of those wildcard teams, especially if it is Nashville, because they're going to have something to play for. I think the depth of the Western Conference, that'll make a difference, and I think any of those wildcard teams can knock out Vegas. The Blues have something to play for, too, with Bouwmeester. The cardiac arrest, what happened to him, I can't see them going out that early. In the East, really, they don't have great bottom teams as much that I could think can knock out the Bruins or the Capitals. So I'm going to take Vegas.
I'm taking the Bruins.
You are?
I'm going to take the Bruins, especially getting knocked out in the Stanley Cup Finals last year against the great young or veteran team of the Blues last year. I was there. I was on the ice. I watched the players. I watched the Boston Bruins. Their heads go down. But this is a young team, talented. They have good leadership. Zdeno Chara is still playing. They have Tuukka Rask, always plays well in the second half going into the playoffs. He's a good playoff goaltender. He didn't play well good in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Right.
And Brad Marchand, who a lot of people don't like in the league, has played good hockey. This is a team that's 7-3 in their last 10 games. And to me, they're the most all-around talented team out of all the 4 teams. So they've got goaltending, they have defense, they have special teams, they can score on a power play, they're a good penalty-killing team. This is a team that's stacked from top to bottom. Their first 3 lines are as good as first 3 lines in the NHL right now. And their talent is unbelievable. They have a lot of good talented players, young players. They have one of the best young defensive players in the league who's from Long Island, as you guys know. So this is a team that is stacked with great young talent. Now, the Golden Knights over the last couple of years have been one of the best teams in the NHL. They've proven themselves in the Western Conference and really what they've done. They've built around goaltending, which they have with Marc-Andre Fleury. And then there's the Blues, who won the Stanley Cup last year. Ever since they brought in their new coach in the second half of the season, they've played great hockey. They went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and surprised and shocked the world, winning the Stanley Cup with a goaltender that never played in the NHL, who came from the AHL, who was a subpar goalie at best in the AHL, came into the NHL and became one of the most dominant goaltenders in the playoffs. So I think all these teams, and Tampa Bay, and even though Tampa's not at first, Washington is. A lot of people think Tampa is the team to beat. Washington has a better chance of going all the way. Both teams are not teams that are built for the playoffs. I'm sorry, they're not. And no matter how talented both teams are and how good are the players they have on their team as far as their rosters are concerned, both teams are teams that fall off in the big stage. I don't think Tampa is a big stage team, and I don't think Washington, since Barry Trotz has left, are a big stage team. So the team to beat out of all 4 teams is the Boston Bruins.
So you think Washington is the best chance of losing in the first round?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely with a new coach, that makes a difference too. All right, number 2. Which team, we're moving on to the NBA now, which team has a better chance of trading for Chris Paul in the offseason? We discussed this last week. The New York Knicks or the Los Angeles Lakers to go play with LeBron James?
All right, Speedy, let's hear it. What do you got here?
All right, so I'm going to take the Lakers in this instance. We're just waiting on the music to come back.
It doesn't matter. You go ahead, talk.
I'm going to take the Lakers in this instance, and it's not because that the Lakers are going to pay him any more than what they would do, because Chris Paul's still going to be on that contract, $41 million this year, $44 next year. So that's the contract he's going to be on. I feel like the Lakers, though, would tend to what LeBron wants. And if LeBron wants Chris Paul, which they've always said they've wanted to play with each other for a while, that's why I thought LeBron last offseason, when he was a free agent, was going to go to the Houston Rockets and go play with Chris Paul. I just think that's going to help in terms of what he likes to do. We've seen him do this. When he wants a guy, he gets a guy, and that ends up happening. So I think the Lakers, even though they don't have the draft capital to do it right now, they
don't have the room to bring him in.
They do this every other year kind of thing with the NBA drafts, the way it works. I think in terms of that, I think they'll try to make it away. They're going to do whatever it takes to make LeBron comfortable. If LeBron wants Chris Paul and he sees an opening for somebody like Chris Paul off a phenomenal season like that, he could trust him again. That's going to be something that I think could end up making a difference. The Knicks, again, you say it all the time, the Knicks should be careful with trading their assets away. You wouldn't trade anything else but the number 1 overall pick. You wouldn't trade it for anything else other than Karl Anthony Towns. A lot of the young players, you wouldn't want to trade.
They're not trading their first pick for Chris Paul.
No, I didn't say they would. I didn't say they would. No, I'm not saying they would.
Karl Anthony Towns, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't trade it for anything else, and nor should they, because the Knicks are in a rebuilding team. They're a young team. And again, Chris Paul, I don't think he would damage anything like that, because he's still a phenomenal player. He's a nice leader, but would they want to give up what the Thunder would want for that kind of thing? Whereas the Lakers, I think...
Thunder's not going to want a lot. What are they going to get?
Off a great year?
Yeah.
I didn't say they'd get a lot, but I'm just saying...
You could get a Kevin Knox and maybe a second-round draft pick. That's what you're going to get.
No, I think they would want more than that.
They're not going to get that much. Nobody's going to give them that much.
I think they would.
For a 35-year-old man that's making $40 million a year? No way. No way.
All right, well...
No way.
I think they would want more off the season that they got. But
who? What are they going to get?
The Thunder.
The Thunder is not going to get what you think they're going to get. It's going to be the Knicks, and I'm going to tell you why the Knicks. It's not the Lakers, because the Lakers don't have the money to fit him in there. They don't. They're going to have to pay Anthony Davis, unless Anthony Davis decides to flee after this year. If that happens, Chris Paul will be a Laker. If not, it's the Knicks. The Knicks have the money. They have more than enough money. They can bring in Karl Anthony Towns and Chris Paul and be a championship competitive team with those players. And I could see the Knicks doing something like that. Chris Paul comes from Rose's his organization. He was the agent of Chris Paul. He's also the agent of Karl Anthony Towns, who wants out of the Timberwolves. If the Knicks could get Paul and Karl Anthony Towns as a duo, I can't always say the Yankees, but the Knicks would absolutely do that. Now, the Knicks have the better chance because the Knicks have the money. They'll be aggressive in the offseason, more aggressive than the Lakers, because the Lakers are going to try to be as aggressive to sign Anthony Davis, who probably wants to go to Chicago and play in his hometown. So I will tell you this right now. They have a better chance. The Lakers have a better chance of trying to keep Anthony Davis than going after Chris Paul. So Chris Paul would be the Knicks. And that would be the target for the Knicks. And it seems like that is going to be their target in the offseason. Bringing in somebody like Chris Paul, because that will draw other free agents to come and play with them.
Alrighty. Number 3 and the final one for today. Which newly acquired cornerback, Josh Norman or A.J. Boye, will make a new difference to their team? Josh Norman just signing with the Bills.
Ooh.
And Boye last week getting traded to the Broncos. Now, even though I think Boye is the better player right now, I'm going to take Norman for this reason. One of which is he knows the defense already with Sean McDermott. McDermott was not the defensive coordinator when they went to the Super Bowl, but he was on that staff. It was a very similar type defense, a lot of cover 2, a lot of physical zone coverages, and he knows that style of defense, and that's where he strived the most. Once McDermott left as a head coach for Buffalo, Norman was not the same player when Steve Wilkes was the defensive coordinator and the other guys after that. So I think him fitting in that offense the way he is will make a difference. He doesn't have to be the number 1 corner there. Tre'Davious White's already there. He's one of the better young corners, maybe one of the best overall corners in football right now. So he could be a number 2. He could be a good number 2, and different than what they have. A lot of their number 2 types are smaller corners. Norman provides a physical element to that. He's lost some speed with his age, but them being a mostly zone team and him being a number 2 corner, I think will make a difference in that defense a lot more than Boye, who has to be rushed into a number 1 in a new system, a very complicated system with Vic Fangio. So I'm going to take Norman. It's close because they're both good defensive minds, but I'm going to take Norman to be able to do that.
Norman's going to a team that's already has 2 really good corners. Where are you going to put Norman? Now, Norman will be the second tier guy. He will not be the first tier guy. But he's already going to a Buffalo team that was the number 1 defense, really number 2 defense in all of football last year. So how much better is Josh Norman going to make that team? I wouldn't say that much better. Boye could make the Broncos that much better in their secondary. Even though they're going to lose Harris, they're going to lose the players that they've lost in the last couple of years. Boye is still in the prime of his career. You put him over there with the Broncos with the pass rush. And by the way, their coach is a defensive-minded coach that has made corners better in his defense. And I think Boye will be a better number 1 with the Broncos than being the number 1 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a completely different defense. It's a completely different zone type of style of game where they're going to go after the quarterback. You know what the Broncos are all about. They have the front 7. So I still look at Boye being the better choice and the better player as far as these corners that we're talking about right now. Now, Josh Norman is a good player, and he's still a good player. What worries me more about Josh Norman is his cancer. Is he going to bring the cancer craziness into that locker room? He did it in Carolina. He did it in Washington. This is a guy that's had problems with players that he's played with on his own team and other teams. So I don't know if Josh Norman is going to bring stability with the Buffalo Bills, make them that much better, because how much better could they be? They're a top 3 defense all around in the whole NFL. Do they really need Josh Norman? They don't. They really don't. Now, Boye is needed with the Broncos.
How much of a problem do you think Josh Norman's attitude, though, in Washington is also a Washington problem, though, too?
No, I think Josh Norman is a cancer. He's just like an Odell Beckham. He's the cornerback at the position of Odell Beckham. They're both silly, no good, big mouth players that have nothing good to say about the players that they play with. They think that they're the best. They think that they're number one, and they think that they're the number one priority on that team in that organization. That was the problem over there in Washington, and that's why Washington wanted him out of there, because he thought he was that much better than the quarterbacks. He was that much better than all the other corners and the defensive players on the team, which he wasn't. He's a player that is not the same player that came from Carolina or even the first year with Washington. He's not the corner that everybody was talking about. It was one of the top defensive corners in the league. He right now, if you were to rate him, he's 15 or 16 on my book.
He might be even lower now.
Yeah,
he had a really bad year last year.
He's not the same player he once was. So, to me, Boye is still amongst the league's best corners in the league. I would say he's in the top 12, top 10 corners in the league. And you put him over there with the Broncos in that defense, in that style of defense with a defensive-minded coach, I think he's going to flourish over there with the Broncos. I don't know if Norman is going to flourish in that defense, especially where he's not even going to be the second guy. He might be the third or fourth guy coming in the game as a corner.
Or be a number 2 corner.
Or slot. I don't think he is.
He'll be a number 2 corner, and I think in most game plans, but they'll still try to game plan because they have other good options of the 2 corner. I think it'll depend on the game plan more than anything else. If they want a physical guy to match up against a certain receiver, they'll do that. Otherwise, they'll play their younger guys, Levi Wallace, Kevin Johnson, guys like that.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Debate Hour with me and Speedy Petey. 3 questions today that you guys can vote and argue about on our social medias. Tomorrow we'll have 5 questions. 5 questions where we'll get deep inside the NBA. We'll get some good questions. Try to compare some old players to new players. I think a lot of people like arguing that, and they really don't like to compare old style of football players to the new style of football players. But I think it creates more banter. And I think the fans, we want to give the fans something to argue about. And I think that delivers it. I think that's what Debate Hour gives, is a different argument and a different thought to the process of what we're talking about of a particular player or particular athlete or particular team. So I think Debate Hour really drives people to vote and argue and really get down and dirty with the points that we make on our Debate Hour. So again, thank you to Rick Curti for joining us. If you guys don't know him, check him out, the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats. And let's bring MLB to Charlotte. I made a pitch for you, Speedy, a pitch for me that if they do bring Charlotte baseball to that organization to make us the play-by-play guys. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I'll reach out to Rick as everything moves forward, and we'll see what Manfred decides to where he wants to put a franchise. Mm-hmm. I think there will be a team in the next couple of years where Manfred is going to definitely stick a franchise in.
I think it'll be, when it comes, it'll be like 2 at once. I think maybe 1 in the East, 1 in the West, I would imagine.
I think it's going to be 1.
You think it'll be 1 and they'll have an odd number? That's interesting.
I think it's going to be 1 team. So, well, I think there's more teams isn't there more teams in the East than there is in the West? I'm not sure.
Well, right, but it's also not split up that way. It's split up in American League and nationally.
That's why I think there'll be a team more in the West than the East. So okay. I think that's what I see it happen. I think that's what baseball's going to do. They're going to try one expansion team. If it works out, they'll bring another one in.
I've always thought a city like Portland could work for that.
Portland will work. Yeah. Seattle will work. I mean, Seattle. I'm talking about hockey. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Seattle's bringing a hockey team next year, so I'm excited about that because I've been waiting for that. I want to see the Seattle SuperSonics come back in basketball.
That'll be soon because once that arena's built, that'll already just motivate them to bring that back.
But there are other places like Charlotte that are places, big providing places that I think a lot of teams like Oklahoma City, when they brought basketball over there, it was huge. Why not bring baseball over there in Oklahoma City?
They have a very big following with the OKC Dodgers, which I think are the Dodgers AA affiliate. They have a pretty big following.
Why not bring an OKC or an Oklahoma City baseball team to the organization or the city? So I'm interested to see what Manfred does, but I don't think Manfred's going to be in office that long to really push this forward anyways, because I think a lot of owners and a lot of players are going to try to force him out after his 4 years left of his stint. So I do not believe Rob Manfred will be the commissioner of baseball that long, because this to me is appalling. And anybody that's a fan or an athlete or plays baseball couldn't honestly say that you're just going to sit here every single day and wonder why Rob Manfred did not spend more players for this, Carlos Beltran lost his job. Alex Cora lost his job. AJ Hinge lost his job. The GM lost his job. Why isn't the owner losing his franchise? Why isn't the owner getting fined millions of dollars when he made millions of dollars going to the World Series and winning a World Series title? Why aren't they paying the teams that made it to the playoffs that lost out of the World Series? These are things that Rob Manfred should be thinking about. There should be no reason why Rob Manfred is not going to suspend some of the players. And I've said this over and over again. Rob Manfred should take the 5 top players out of Houston and suspend them for 40 games. Show Houston what it is to be an handicapped team and let them learn. And when everybody says, well, why would they do that? Mikey C says, how could you choose who the better players? You know who the best players are.
Right, but again, how can you judge that all of them were coordinating it all at once?
Doesn't matter. If you want to suspend a team, you want to hurt a team, you take Bregman out, you take Cora out, you take Altuve out, you take Springer out, you take Verlander out, and your other player out. Take another player out. Take your 5 best players out and suspend them for 40 games. 40 games, and let them be handicapped for those 40 games. And let's see how the Houston Astros figure out how to get through the season with 40 games without your 5 best players. That's what I want to see. And I think the major league should look at that. I think Manfred should look. I wouldn't suspend it for the season.
I think they still could later in the season.
They're not going to do it.
I think
they're not going to.
I think, like I said earlier when we were interviewing Rick, I think these 2 scandals with the Astros and Red Sox could be connected, where they're trying to figure out who did it worse, who did it with certain things, and how many players were involved, and which specific players were involved. That's not evidence that they know yet, as far as we know, and I think it's because there's such a sophisticated investigation, something that probably started even 2 years before that. That's something that maybe they're looking to connect, and I think players could be suspended later in the season because of that, and those will be more crucial games.
Well, Speedy's sophisticated explanation would be the underwear that he's wearing today, which are dirty, right, Speedy?
No.
Well, I don't know if you're wearing underwear today.
I am wearing underwear, and they are not dirty.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Well, you were just telling me before we came here that you didn't do your laundry.
When did I say that?
Exactly, Speedy. Now you're lying to the fans. Now he's lying to the fans.
You never asked that.
This guy does not do his own laundry. His grandma doing his laundry.
I do my own laundry.
No, well, I don't, so I beg to differ on that, Speedy. So you know how to fold?
Yes.
Are you a good folder?
Somewhat.
We don't fold my clothes?
Maybe.
All right, you're going to fold my laundry from now on.
All
right, so Speedy will be my laundry folder. So he knows how to fold laundry. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our new folder. So if you want your laundry folded,
I'm not limiting. I'm not doing it the whole fans.
Yes, for all the fans out there that want your laundry.
I said if you're busy and I'm here, I'll help you fold.
I think the laundry.
I'm not. No.
I think that would be a great idea. I think Speedy would be the laundry folder,
God.
and he can make some money. Well, you could throw him, you could tip him a couple of bucks, maybe $3-4. He does about 100. He folds about 100 different things. For $4. I mean, so
how much clothes could people wear? Jeez.
I wear a lot of clothes, so I go through a lot of laundry. You gonna clean my dirty underwear?
No.
Well, that's what you said you were gonna do.
I said I was gonna fold them.
But they still could be dirty.
Oh my God.
631-965-4990 is the number. Remember, you can follow us by going to our website at worldwidesportsradio.com. Follow us on all our social medias. Check out our website. I'm not going to mention all of them. You can find them on our website. All our stories, all our great writers. It's great. Our blogs, our stories are as good as any blogs and any stories on the market. If you guys haven't checked out our website, go to worldwidesportsradio.com. Speedy, do you have anything to say before we go? We will be back tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night, Eastern New York time.
Just ignore his comments about the laundry.
No. Speedy will be folding your dirty laundry. Yes. And Speedy, if you guys want somebody to clean your dirty laundry, if you leave streaks in your underwear, let Speedy clean those underwear. Yes. Anyways, that's it for our show. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, this is Errol Marks and Speedy Petey and Down to the Wire saying good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.